All right, so Brad, like, you can't get on LinkedIn these days without seeing 100, fucking posts about, AI in the grow, AI this, AI that. Like, what's your takeaway right now for where we are in terms of integrating AI into the cannabis business?
I think there's a lot of places where it is applicable right now, and I hear a lot of people talking about AI cultivation and AI irrigation and all of that. And being that that's our business, it's near and dear to my heart, right? So I really look at that and have been attached to things machine learning and AI, artificial intelligence, since 2016, 2017. So I've been doing this about a decade. And when the whole ML AI thing started about a decade ago, there were a lot of companies that got a lot of traction by just saying, oh, we do AI ML, we do AI ML, we do AI ML. But it was really just a bunch of horse crap, right? So nobody was really doing it. And if it wasn't like artificial intelligence driven. And I fast forward to where we're sitting at 2026. We have some incredibly unbelievable frontier models out there now that give us some spectacular results if we ask it questions on, like, I need you to build me a program that does this. Help me find the best barbecue recipe that I've ever had ever. I'm trying to win a brisket contest. Help me do my taxes. All that's really good, right? That's all in the public frontier model. And I think what a lot of people, are amazed is these models are really smart. I mean, the newest ones have trillions of points that they are trained on. But when we get to cultivation, if you really dig into the models about what they understand about precision irrigation and cultivation and precision nutrient delivery and precision light delivery, they really just hallucinate a lot. They make a lot of shit up. And so when that happens and people trust it, they start making really bad decisions in the grow. And there's not any models out there today that I know of where somebody has taken a very, very large set of successful cultivation data, and that's all the inputs, not just the watering input, not just the light input, not just the environmental input, all those things that happen during the run, but what was the outcome of the run? So I ran Skittles, I ran it in 60 days. I used the following irrigation and feed schedule. I used the following top and under canopy light schedule and all the other things. Again, these are the things that I did to the plant, the defolies I ran, the foliar treatments, all this. And ultimately, what was the outcome that I got? And the outcome is, what did you get when you sold it into market? And did you sell it quickly? And those are really what matters, right? So the whole thing that when we look at, like, oh, I got AI this and AI that. Well, so is it accurate? Is it real? And right now, if you're depending on the frontier models to tell you that, you're going to have a lot of hallucinations. I mean, you know what? That's going to be weed grown on LSD is what it is.
Let's back up real quick, just for some of our friends who are watching this. I'll kind of level set real quick. When we talk about hallucinations, right? These language models, they're really good at a lot. But as Brad is bringing up, sometimes when they don't know the answer, there's a famous viral clip of a lawyer being yanked in front of a judge who clearly did their submission on AI, and they bring up a case that did not exist. And how did that happen? The AI simply made it up. So
it dropped a big tab, man.
Yeah, exactly. It dropped a huge tab and it saw some things. So Brad, when you and I are out and about and we're seeing all these people talking about AI in the grow, and I think you and I were laughing earlier, like, theoretically what you and I are talking about is keeping AI slop out of the grow.
That's right.
What are some good guardrails for people who look, this software stuff that you see is not cheap. Like the software that people are currently running plus the software, the add-ons, the bolt-ons, all that shit. What, like, in your mind, how do you keep AI slop out of the grow? How are you advising people to keep it out of the grow?
Well, the first thing I tell everybody is like, be very sure of the data that you're feeding whatever you're working. If you're working in ChatGPT, Claude, Quinn, DeepSeek, Gemini, you know, name your flavor of stuff that you want to run. You got to make sure what you're feeding it is real, and you with conviction, I mean conviction, understand what that data is going in, because when it processes and it sends you out like, hey, tell me how to water tomorrow, if you feed it a bunch of garbage, it's going to vomit out a bunch of garbage right back at you. Oh, well, you need to feed for 14 minutes and 22 seconds at a 7.6 EC with the following inner shot dryback, blah, 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 right? But if you fed it everything and didn't know what it was talking about on the input, it's going to make a bunch of very, very convincing statements that are totally fabricated or based off errant data. And so the very first thing, and I did a podcast on this a week or so ago that said that if somebody says we do AI irrigation or we do AI crop management or we do AI cultivation, anything, the very first question that you need to ask them is, how did you train your models? And then the next thing that you need to listen for is, if they don't tell you something long and boring and immediately goes over your head and you're like, I have no idea what this guy is talking about, you need to freaking run like hell. Because what that means is somebody is hallucinated just as much as your AI is when they told you what this is, and they're making stuff up. Because it's a lot of work to get clean data into these systems to get clean responses back out. And that's the number one thing, is that there's a lot of people that claim they do this stuff, but the data that they're feeding it is crap. And so the output, although convincing, Greg, you use AI as much as I do. How much time have you fed something and it spins you something back? You're like, that sounds really amazing. Oh my God, that looks good. Look at this document. It looks formatted so real. And then you really read it and you're like, this isn't at all true. Like, this is a total garbage.
You completely missed my point. God help us all. We're all dumber for having read this.
Exactly. I mean, so the slop comes in is that it's not making us smarter. It's making us more convinced that the shit that it's telling us is real. And like, we're not using our brains to go like, and critical analysis skills of like, really?
Yeah.
Really? And so that's how we keep slop out of the garden. I mean, specifically on our end is that, one, I'm not going to turn it loose and say, oh, just grow a plant, which is some people are claiming, right? Well, our approach is that, hey, you and your 20 years of knowledge of growing plants know the guardrails that you want to keep the garden in during the 3 phases of growth, right? And so when we're stretching the plants out and getting them ready to flower, we know that we want to keep the whole ecosystem, temperature, humidity, VPD, what's happening in the root zone, what the runoff looks like, all the pH, all that. We want to keep it in a slot, right? And then the next thing that comes in, when we change it, we change that slot for bulking, and then we're going to change it again when we ripen the plants. So there's 3 changes that happen. And what we want is we want whatever's driving that to really pay close attention to those guardrails and put a lot of not statements inside of what it's telling whatever model that it's using to do. I think you and I have both figured out over the last year, as we've been using all these things, it's not as important to tell the thing what you want it to do. It's really, really important to tell it what you don't want it to do. And that's what I think a lot of people are doing right now, is they're saying, I want you to do all this crazy shit. And they're not leaving it, but don't do X, Y, Z, and D, right? Because we know that if it goes off in that way, it's going to be really inaccurate. So that's one of the things that keeps the slop out of the environment, especially when we're looking at modifying controls. I've talked to some integrators out there that are driving high-end, like desert air type controls, where they're controlling compressor speeds and all that stuff that goes along with that. And they said that their not list that they build around that is much longer than their do list. But I'll give you an example. We was in a grow in Sacramento 2 weeks ago. These are 14,000 square foot rooms. They're huge. And normally when you walk in them, they've got 1,000 plants in there, right? So you walk in there and it is deafening loud. They put all this new AI, they put all like AI behind it, learned the environment, learned how to control it. Dude, you could hear a pin drop in there and the environment was perfect.
Whoa.
And then what they were like, yeah, we can, before we were running 14 compressors to run this thing, blah, blah, blah. Like now, like our electricity usage is down, our fan usage is down. Like we're still able to throw a ton of light on the plants. And you walk in there and if you walked into a cannabis room that is perfectly dialed and like you feel that on your skin, the reaction, once you get that, like, oh, I know what good looks like now. I know what good feels like. You walk into that in a big room like that and it's quiet and you only hear one compressor running. That's amazing. And so that is like, that's the use of where it's going. But look, it took some really smart people that really understood the back end systems to make that work, to tell it, don't do all the dumb shit. And then tell it like, but I want you to learn this way. And what they didn't just say, turn it loose. They created a learning environment. So that's the other thing how we keep AI slop out of the grow is that go do something. And if it didn't work, then recursively write that didn't work. So you never do it again, right? A lot of times when things fail, they go, okay, I failed. So what? Right. But the real trick is like when things fail is to be able to go back and say, hey, learn from that and don't do it again, and learn from that and don't do it again. AI behavior is the same as human behavior. We don't learn from success. If we were successful every time, like we're the luckiest people alive. We learn from failure, and the models are the exact same way. And so that's keeping slop out. That was a very long way around the block to explain it. But that's how we do it, right? We put a lot of don't do this, and then we feed it data that we know is good. And how we know it is good on our end is like the data that we acquire as part of the grow with AROYA. I mean, I take that data to the bank every day because I know it's accurate. I know that like at high and low volumetric water curves, the EC's on the money. I know that the volumetric water curves are on the money. And so like, then we can start making intelligent decisions.
Yeah. And I think the danger is like, and you and I've talked a lot about this, is that the danger is like in this compressed market that we're in, like margins are tight, price per pound blows. You know, your OpEx is killing you. You know, like all of the things that you and I talk about, right? Like, consistently. There's this really sexy thing, I think, for operators and investors, which is, you know, someone's going to come to you and say, how are you using AI in your grow, Brad? And it's such a nebulous question. Like, well, what do you mean? Are you suggesting I replace my cultivation team with robots? No. Like, are you suggesting that, you know, I run my, you know, and there are suggestions I think you and I can talk about that are interesting, right? Like, you know, you can get insights from Claude, for example, if you describe a business set of circumstances or a marketing initiative or whatever. But I think what I'm really worried about, and I'm curious about your reaction, is, you know, we talked a little bit about how your philosophy is AROYA has great data. Ipso facto, the AI that we're incorporating still has great, you know, fire in, fire out, data in, data out. We all say those things. When you look around, and we don't need to say any names or anything, but do you feel like it felt like cannabis kind of got out of when you go to a trade show, that snake oil type vendor has kind of gone away? I almost feel like we're seeing a lot of it come back with some of the.
Oh, yeah. No, now everybody, the snake oil is now called AI, right? It's like, oh, I got AI this, I got AI that. And you're like, what are you doing? Oh, we built in a chat GPT interface. We're using their API. That's not, I mean, yeah. So you're using a frontier model to spit your garbage data back out to you. So that's the bad that's coming out of it, is you got a lot of people who don't know what they're doing, who haven't spent decades in technology to understand what it really means to build an intelligent back end.
Right.
But it's like, I remember when I first started in this business, like I was looking through some trade publications online, and there was this thing that people had out there that basically attached to the trellis and shook the trellis like this, right? And they charged like $10,000 for it. And I was like, isn't that just a fan?
Yeah.
So like improve transpiration by this shaker thing. And so I think there's a lot of shaker shit out there right now that people are buying off on. And it's because, like, look, sexy marketing goes a really, really long way. You can make something, especially with the AI tools out there, look really convincing. But to actually does it work in reality? And is it doing what we thought it was going to do? And what the desired outcome was? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I think that a lot of people are going to get bit, and to like compound on this is like what do we see that does work, and where are the use cases that are good? And I've written about this a lot lately too. Is I think all the compliance stuff that we have to do, where it is repetitive work, where it's the same forms and the same submittals and the same copy the stuff from this COA into a state submission and all that. That's a perfect AI use case. Perfect. Like we can take agentic technology, take fixed data, transform it into something else and send it off. And that reduces workload by a bunch. I talked to one customer, they do like 900 compliance checkpoints a year. Ooh. Right. And so when we started talking to them and I talked to them, just the ownership, like feeling bad for them, like, hey, what if you took this approach or what if you took that approach? I mean, they basically took what was 2.5 people of work a year and made it down to like, it's 10 minutes a week now because somebody just verifies the output, but all the gathering and putting together, that's a great use case. Like the stuff that we have to do with metric and biotrack, that all is great use cases, but like following very important data routines on what's happening with plants and then not having like some of the things like you look at what Specs AI did and who was that other company that went out of business that was doing something similar.
Yeah. You and I saw those guys in Germany. I remember.
Yeah. So yeah, that was another one. Like the vision side of that. So you got to take the vision and the data and all that. And then you might be able to replicate what a human does in the garden, but probably not. Right. And so there's still a lot of data that the models are missing that you can make great estimations on like how to keep temperature and humidity and all that dialed in and maybe how to irrigate the plants. But how do you know you got a calcium deficiency? How do you know if you're feeding too much potassium and killing your potency? How are you like all this stuff? And that's not in the models. And frankly, that's the work that I'm finding very interesting right now is how do we take all the research that like the hard peer-reviewed research that's out there, build that into a corpus of information and then feed that into whatever else we've got. So now we've got a holistic thing of like, hey, you're probably going to have a potency problem because you're feeding it too much freaking potassium, right? And everybody's wondering like, why are my potency levels down? Well, your potassium's at 90 gajillion. So yeah, you smoked your capacity of what it can do. And that stuff right there, that's like getting bleeding edge. And those of us that are thinking about that now are like, that's the next steps that we're going to have to be able to push this even further. It's just rich data and pulling from as many sources that we got so that you have something that has, again, I love this word, a corpus of information, right? That is salient to what we are trying to do. And that we can then take all that and train it into a model that takes all that and then takes like all these runs. So let's say you're an older organization, you've got 20,000 runs and you've got the output from that. So you take those 20,000 runs, you put what the outcome was, how much weight did we get, what was the potency and what did we sell it for? You train the model then of like, for the genetics I'm running, this is what great looks like. And now you can take that and say, okay, now I got something I'm going to turn on and let's see what happens because I know what great looks like and we can follow the bouncing ball against great because it's very genetic specific. And then like the other thing that comes in is like, you know, what happens when we start doing crosses? What does the new genetic look like? You know, looking at some things like what would it look like if we took back to the land race strains and all the known crosses and looked at all that and looked at the output data of that and go, hey, if you cross, you know, sour diesel and runts together, what does the cultivation profile look like for that genetic, right? So that you're not spending 2 or 3 runs trying to figure it out. Where the power would come from is the AI telling you like, based off these genetics and everything else that we know of everything that's been crossed with this is what we recommend for your first run. Instead of guessing.
I think that I think to your point, I think all that's fascinating too. And I think the one other thing that I would point out is, um, if you and I are kind of watching as the some industry veterans, like these new solutions hit the market or whatever, the ability of AI to crunch data, incredible, right? Absolutely incredible. And whether you're an operator, you want it to take a look at some Google Sheets for you or whatever that might be, or you're running crosses and you want to see what theoretically could my output be. I would say one, other thing really to consider for anyone who's going to get caught up in this is if someone's pitching Brad Wood, and I'm going to speak for you here, Brad, and I'll let you chime in, but I'm going to go ahead and guess if Brad Wood's running a grow and the pitch for AI does not include how is this going to free up my time, you are not interested and no one else should be interested. Because if it's not driving down OpEx, what in the world is your solution doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I go back to Brad Wood's rules of business, rules 1, 2, 3, and then 4, depending upon the operator, right? It's got to make money. It's got to save money. It solves a compliance issue. And then in certain cases, it needs to, your spend needs to fulfill an emotional need. Sometimes you just got to go out and buy a PJ, right?
Right. Yep.
Right? It's going to save, it may save you money because it's saving you time, but you feel really good about that G5 you just bought. Right? So, I mean, but ultimately the big three, make money, save money, or compliance, are the reasons that people spend money, right? Because all three of those are like, I'm not making enough money. That's a pain point. I need to save some money. This costs us too much. We need to make more money. I got to cut some bottom end out. Or like the agencies are after me. I'm in some sort of, and like, it's not like we're in a regulated business, right?
Right.
Then I've got a compliance reason I got to go spend this money. So, like, if you're not fitting in one of those three buckets, exactly, you need to ask yourself, why am I having this conversation? And if somebody can't clearly, I mean, absolutely down to the day, articulate to you your return on invested capital, then you need to walk away, right? And that's something that we have harped on since I walked in the door here 3 years ago, is like, Mr. Customer, here's what you're going to spend, and this is what you're going to get out of it. If we make these improvements, you're going to get X. If we make those improvements, you're going to get Y, right? And if you do nothing, it's only going to cost you this much a run on a typical CapEx depreciation cycle. And so when we look at it like that and we really break it down into the financial metrics that matter, if you're a CEO or a CFO, it's like, why am I spending this money and what's it going to do for me? And even if it does nothing, what is the net effective cost run to run? And we say it's going to cost you $45 a run to run this stuff. That on its own is like, for the data we got out of it, it's worth it. But if I say it's going to cost you $45 a run, there's going to be your cost, but you're going to have a 6.7x or 5,700% return on capital. Does that sound interesting to you? As a business owner, Greg, if I told you, hey, I come in, you go spend 50 grand with me, I'm going to add 500K to your top line. Does that sound interesting?
Every day of the week.
Right? And I don't need an MBA from freaking Stanford to make those statements. I mean, it's just, it's regular, good old business. It's like you go invest in a stock. I'm going to go invest in a stock that I feel like that I have done research on is going to give me the best rate of return. If this thing can turn out 25, 30% a year, man, it's a home run. When we're talking about, it's going to turn 6.7x in the first year. If somebody told you, hey, go buy some Spotify, it's going to turn you 6x this year as a home, like conservatively. On a 10% improvement, you're going to get a 6x return on your capital. I would be running to my digital broker and buying it.
We'd all be so lucky if our cannabis stocks eventually pop.
Holy crap! Just MSOs, just go up 20%, please.
Please. So I want to do, you and I have dove into the cultivation side. And before I let you go, Brad, I have traveled with you and I have seen how you've really pushed out onto the forefront of where AI is in terms of what you run. So for our cultivation focused people, if you check out this part of the conversation, good having you. But I want Brad to kind of outline what are the ways that AI has been helping you and how far are you pushing this right now from a personal and a business? Because what you're doing is pretty unique.
Yeah, I am. I would say I jumped into the deep end of the pool, man. And so a little bit for those who don't know me very well, and since I'm kind of new to the market, I started my career as an engineer. I worked as the the deputy chief technology officer. That's a mouthful. Of $1 billion a year company. I ran product strategy for a $700 million a year product. I'm a nerd, right? And so, but I also love business, and that's how I ended up in the role that I'm in now. So, but the nerdy side of me never really went away. And so when we really jumped into the deep end with all this AI stuff and what we can build now, one, was I got caught with some numbers that I presented that weren't entirely correct. And I was using a well-known piece of business software called Tableau. And Tableau was lying to me. And I got called out in a meeting about it. And, you're sitting in a meeting with a bunch of your C-suite peers, and you get called out about having bad numbers. I don't know about you. That's catastrophic to me, because I swear by my numbers. I was horrified. I mean, it was like a low point of my career. And that happened on a Thursday. Friday, I thought all about it. And then Saturday morning, I sat down in front of my computer. My wife, who's a coffee roaster, was doing her thing. She wasn't home, and it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I had a fresh mug of coffee here, folded up at the top. And I sat down in front of AI and I said, here's what I want to do. I want to build something that makes sure that every time that I report a number, that I can bet my life on it. And so, and I think I pretty much prompted it that way. And in about 15 hours over a couple of sessions over 2 days, I built a monthly recurring revenue recognition system that certifies its logic against the source data monthly. So basically, every month when we close our books at AROYA and I look at what our monthly recurring revenue is, that number is 100% correct. And if it's drifted at all, it won't even display the numbers. So if it doesn't reconcile against the source data, it basically puts a blank screen and it says uncertified. And that means that somebody needs to go do some reconciliation on the source data and figure out why. Because after that incident that occurred to me, I was like, I'd rather not show anything than show the wrong number. And that's something like most people that are recurring revenue business, even in private equity, will have a little asterisk at the bottom of their financial statements that will say, oh, subject to change, blah, 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 blah. On ours, I'm all like, you know what? I'll bet my job on it every month. So that was the first thing. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole of I built a very sophisticated augmented memory. Anybody who's worked in AI, every time you start a new session, it starts out stupid, right? It doesn't know you have to go tell it everything that you wanted to do again. You have to tell it all the history. It's done. And then if you're working in multiple AIs, it's even worse. So I built a brain. I named it after my daughter. It's called Aianna, AIANNA. And it basically keeps all the data from all the AIs that I work with all the models in one central repository. And I can ask it at any given time. I can start a brand new session and say, hey, remember this conversation I had with Greg 3 weeks ago? And we were talking about marketing models and errors on the website. Can you remind me what the detail on that was? It's right in front of me. And then I can start iterating on it with the model, right? And so that was the second thing. Really, I was like, I'm so annoyed with having to go tell this thing all the time. So lastly, my wife is, she's super into her skincare, right? Like wives are. They're like, they want to stay beautiful, looking great all the time. And so I got her on, she uses ChatGPT. She's named her ChatGPT Scout, right? And so she gets on ChatGPT and she's got this thing giving product recommendations. And now she's got it where it'll say what do you think about this? And her Scout will come back and say, not Scout approved.
Oh, that's cool.
But I was like, let's turbocharge Scout a little bit. So I created a researcher that goes out and it pulls every health research in peer-reviewed research on skincare. And it's pulled over 5,000 peer-reviewed papers that it ranks and now is in this, again, I'll use my favorite word of the day, this corpus of information that she now plugs into ChatGPT. So all the stuff that her and Scout have talked about her skincare, they can now say, well, what does the peer-reviewed research say? And it pulls in all this research from all these physicians and PhD researchers that go, well, yeah, actually, this is the ... And it makes her tweak her formula a little bit more. And so she has the power of the largest research corpus on skincare research in the world that she carries around on her freaking phone. And so that was a Sunday afternoon project, right? I was like, okay, I want to go do this and all that. So these things of like, how do you make practical applications of this in your personal life? Those are one of them. The last thing that was really fun, Greg, do you have like a tankless hot water heater in your house?
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing I hate about my tankless hot water heater is that, I've got my house, the way I've got it set up, it's on a recircle loop, right? So it sends hot water around when it thinks I need it. Well, I got my last bill and it was like, my gas bill, it was like $90. And I'm like, man, we weren't even home that much. And so I built a little AI thing that goes out and it monitors the brain on my hot water heater. And now it's determining based off of like the cold inrush of water and like when it's actually needing to turn on. And so I built a predictive analyzer using AI to properly manage my hot water heater so that when I turn on the tap, it's hot and it's not running when I don't. I dropped my bill down to $22. So that changed. I basically, after like looking at all the usage, it says 75% of the time this running, it doesn't need to be. And so I built that. I came back and I was like, hey, that's pretty good. And so I've got a couple of more tweaks I'm going to do to it, and I'll open source that too. And then anybody that wants to take it and run this little thing, they can just go run it. That's the other thing that I've done. Like everything I've written for myself, I just open source it all. I'm like, if anybody else can use it, this is great. And so they go on GitHub into my repo and go down downloading this, and I just keep adding it because it's fun, it's good for the community, and it just shows. Look, I'm the chief customer officer of an agricultural technology company. I run revenue. That's my job, right? And I'm an average guy, but we're doing some really amazing things, and that's the promise of this, is that we can do some really, really amazing things, and it's just limited to your imagination and your stubbornness to make it work. And you know me well enough, Greg. We've worked together for a long time. I'm pretty damn stubborn.
I remember the difference between my first AI assisted coded website and my second was night and day. And the first,
absolutely.
It was like you basically had two sticks trying to beat a barrel drum going down a mountain, just like, no, don't go that way. No, don't go that way. No. And now, and again, the models are getting better and everything, but you learn just like how you communicate with humans, you learn how to communicate with it. And
that's right.
That use case you brought up about the water heater is so freaking cool, dude. Like that is awesome. What I want to do is tell people, whether or not they're a grower and they have questions about this, you're just curious about AI, I will speak for Brad and tell him one of the best things you can do is follow him on LinkedIn. He writes a lot about this stuff. He doesn't mind you if you DM him, he'll actually respond. Despite our spam LinkedIns, he will respond. So if you have any questions, Brad Wood on LinkedIn, find him there.
Just search for Donald Bradley Wood on LinkedIn. You'll get me. You'll get my blog. If you just Google that, you'll land on me and find me anywhere. I'm on all the other ones too. So pick your poison, pick your LinkedIn, your Twitter. I think I even do threads now. I think I've even got a thread thing going. So, which is another AI story itself. I'll share with you another day of like how crazy that place is. Everybody talked about X being like this toxic soup. Man, I ain't got a candle on Threads. Threads is like jumping into a vat of battery acid. Holy shit.
Maybe I should join.
Oh my God, dude.
All right. Well, Brad, thank you very much. Appreciate the time, my friend. And again, if you're looking for him, I would advise LinkedIn, Twitter, find him there. And again, thanks, Brad. Appreciate your time.
All right, Greg, always.